Nation.
Well, good morning. It is WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160. And this is a special sort of segment of Indiana in the Morning today. We are going to be talking about broadband in Indiana County. Where is it? Where is it not? How can people learn about it? What's the future for broadband? What's the future for internet in Indiana County? And joining me in the studio this morning, Byron Stauffer of the Indiana County Office of Planning Development, our three Indiana County Commissioners, Commissioners Chairman Mike Keith, Shireen Hess, Robin Gorman. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Todd. Good morning.
It's good to have you all with us here today. Byron, since you're closest to the camera for Facebook, if you could hold up the map that you have kindly given to all of us so that the people on Facebook can actually see what this thing looks like. And maybe by seeing that will spur them to get involved in what the internet capabilities are for Indiana County, because there's a lot that is explained by looking at that map. So you can go ahead and you don't have to hold that in front of your face the whole time that we're doing this morning. But what were people just looking at in that map?
Well, good morning, Todd. Again, thank you for having us. This is a very exciting time, I believe, for Indiana County, and this is a culmination of many years of work and planning and strategizing, and in some cases begging for some funding, and all those efforts by our county commissioners, current and our prior board, have positioned us to be able to move forward. If there's anything good that comes out of COVID-19, the realization that many people do not have broadband service, and what that does when you're stuck at home, the inability to educate and have classes, from your home when schools were closed, for people that needed to work from home, the people that needed to continue to go to school, whether it be secondary or college levels, as well as elementary or high school levels. So it just brought to bear the question of, in the pandemic, for example, how do you connect with the outside world when you're at home?
Yeah.
And so our state government, our federal government, have provided some resources, both funding wise and also support relative to trying to expand broadband service. So the map that I had displayed demonstrates a number of things. One is the county commissioners have competitively sought out some federal and state dollars. So the purple areas are a funding opportunity through the Appalachian Regional Commission Power Initiative, and these are funds targeted to communities that, due to no fault of their own, have coal-fired power plants or other coal industries, and this is to assist us in transitioning the economy. Mm-hmm. So those are specifically the ARC power monies, and that was for $1.5 million, of which the county commissioners, this board of commissioners, have matched with an additional $1.5 million. So that's a $3 million pool within that purple area. There's a gray strip through there, and the county has also identified an additional $1.5 million for the now it can also go in the purple areas, but the gray areas that are not designated ARC, and then there's a non-competitive grant that we got through the state, $500,000. So it's a $2 million pool of funds that Senator White and with the support of Senator Pittman, we got under contract for $500,000. So it's another $2 million. So five total. And then in the upper left-hand corner is a planned mapped out area of some green lines, and that's targeted due to income levels relative to CDBG funding. Mm-hmm. So it's Community Development Block Grant funding, CV, COVID money. So it's specifically targeted to low mod areas in terms of income levels. And so that's why that area was picked, because by the new census numbers, it was eligible for these particular dollars. So that gives us a total pool of $7 million. The other areas that you see in green, blue, and a golden color, those are RDOF areas. Those are Rural Digital Opportunity Fund areas. These are targeted areas that the FCC has granted licenses and funding to 3 different vendors in Indiana County, and those being Windstream, ComNet, and SpaceX, and SpaceX being satellite service. And based on the availability of state and federal grant dollars, unfortunately, we need to try to stay clear of those RDOF areas as much as possible, because the governmental granting sources don't want us to duplicate sources. We're not at the stage yet where we're trying to create competition. We're just trying to create service. And then the red triangles are inquiries that we've received either from Senator Pittman's office or Representative Struzzi's office, calls and emails and visits to the county commissioner's office, petitions that have come into my office, calls that my office. So we're mapping those to try to give the vendors, the internet service providers, the ISPs, kind of an idea of where people are saying, hey, I need service.
Yeah.
And what we're also trying to convey here is that the areas of need that we're identifying, and I don't want to get too technical, but right now some people may have service, but it's inadequate. You get the spinning thing that happens,
Sure.
and that's buffering, and because it just can't keep up with the downloads that's coming into your computer or into your phone. And so what that entails is we're targeting 120 megabits per second, and for download speeds, and then 10 or 20 megabits per second upload speeds. So some people may have service today, and we would say, if you don't meet those 100 by 20, it's 100 by 20, then you're considered underserved. Okay, and then if you don't have anything, which many parts of our rural parts of our county, particularly those that are down in dips or in tree-lined areas, so it's even hard for wireless to get there, or even sometimes satellite, depending on the canopy and everything. But obviously, if you don't have anything, then you're unserved. And so the county's approach to this right now, a couple months ago, we issued an RFP. And internet service providers those bids are due. Those responses to that RFP for the $7 million bucket of money is due on tomorrow, the 21st. And so we're targeting the unserved and the underserved areas, and the county commissioners, by virtue of the direction that they've given my office to undertake this project, have said, let's try to move this on as quickly as possible. But it's just very complex, many funding sources, and it does take time. And again, not to monopolize this, but I'll just prompt the county commissioners, under CARES Act, did do about a little over $2 million of funding. And so some people in the last couple of years have gotten service. Some people are scheduled to get service because fiber optic lines were laid, and the vendor, Salzgiver, that was contracted for that scope of work, needs to connect every house along those lines. And sometimes we've had supply chain issues and just scheduling things. And a very complicated aspect of this is what's called make-ready work. Sometimes in these rural areas, you have poles that are undersized. They're not tall enough, and you have to have a certain amount of spacing between your electric lines, your telephone lines, and then your internet lines or your cable lines.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you got to put new poles in, and that gets very expensive and timely, and slows the process down as well.
So you've created this mosaic really, and it's something that the county commissioners, you have all seen this quite often. And examined it and perused it and watched the changes coming to it. So let's talk with you folks about it as well. It really is, Mike Keith, a priority for Indiana County. Just from, as Byron was explaining, when you think of the various different entities that really need to have internet service just to remain on the same footing with others.
That's true, Todd. And first, before I get started, I want to thank Byron for actually joining us today. You can hear from us all you want to hear. We keep on, talking about the broadband and the splash and everything, but truly, Byron has basically done a lot of the background work, the legwork, and everything. Him explaining it just as he had done just now makes all the complication taken out of the picture. He makes it so easy, and as you look at this map, you see it all put together, but really, he peels off the layers and makes it more detailed. And to us, when we see that, and after listening to him to explain more as we get into the depth of it and the detail, it's amazing what Indiana County is actually going to be put into a Commonwealth situation. Because we have all heard from other counties that about their broadband situation versus what we already have in play. And I will be the first to tell you, and I believe my colleagues will also, Indiana County is on the first and foremost front of broadband in the Commonwealth. And other commissioners have told us that.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of a proud situation that we're into right now. But as Byron spoke about COVID and how it put us in that situation, with today's society, people are working differently from home also. And they will continue to work differently as we go forward in our lives. COVID's changed the world, as we said. And as we see it today, people will actually, again, need the service, as we all speak to, just to, do their everyday life, but also to do the business aspect also.
Yeah.
So it's a really good moment that we're talking about this today. We're pretty proud of it, and especially after tomorrow when we see the RFPs coming in for $7 million of construction.
Yeah.
I mean, we've committed to it coming into office. We will continue to commit to it as we go forward. And again, patience is a virtue, and people are going to need it. But someday, we're all going to step back and say, wow, look what we did.
Maybe that picture of patience is standing right beside you. Shireen has been not only with this Board of Commissioners, but with previous boards of commissioners. Shireen, this has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yes, it really has. And Byron referred to the former Board of Commissioners. And I will say that our emergency management agency team has been very involved in this too. Yes. So, and I'll just say when I first learned the importance of the internet, well before this, when I realized, it's not just to, do a little research on there for a paper or, to find like-minded groups, the other groups that are interested in these topics or, to watch videos or whatever. When I was working for the Department of Agriculture, and we heard of a thing called precision agriculture, where farmers were relying on global positioning systems, GPS, which required an internet connection. Yeah. And we weren't necessarily doing that in southwestern Pennsylvania and in Indiana County, but it really brought home the point that, wow, there are other entities and other industries out there that need the internet. Yeah. It is not a luxury anymore. It is really necessary. And you mentioned about keeping us on a level. We really need it to be connected to the wider economy and students and, our seniors or people living in rural areas who want to use telemedicine. I mean, it's not just a thing out there that's coming. It's here. Yeah. And we're really like moving sort of, in these leaps and bounds now, but really the preparation began quite a while ago. And part of Indiana County and rural areas problem, Byron can speak to this, is the maps that the FCC put together really misled and they were designed by census tract and in such a way that it looked like, if you just looked at the map, it looked like rural areas were being served when really we weren't. So these are really important elements. And, we heard a lot about that. Our Sustainable Economic Development Task Force in 2018 when we were doing a very large group work on what the needs were for Indiana County, we knew that we wanted the county to continue on with their aims of, bringing broadband and hopefully cell phone service too. We need to talk about that as well. So I'll just say that it's been a really interesting journey, and, the plans were in place. Unfortunately, it took a pandemic to really gather the funds together, but fortunately for us, we had great leadership who got us to this point so that we're able to really move forward with real meaning.
Yeah. Robin Gorman, I wanted to ask you about this as well. One of the interesting things to me about this, the entire broadband issue, is that remote, away from Indiana Borough, White Township, some of the more rural townships, businesses don't want to locate there if they know that they're not going to get adequate internet service there. Companies that have people working in those remote locations are going to steer elsewhere if they're not going to find what they need in areas of Indiana County. And that's a really important aspect, I think, of all of this.
Huge. And I can't even imagine what I can cover that my colleagues haven't done a fantastic job making those excellent points. But as Commissioner Hess said, it is a basic infrastructure need now. This is not a luxury. This is not a fun thing. This is something that connects us to our wider economy, which is what you're talking about. And, the commissioners, the representative, the senator, the planning office, staff, Byron's board and team, leaders all across this county work every day to try and talk about who can we attract, what businesses can we bring, how can we broaden our tax base, how can we make our economy better here. And you hit it on the head. They look at, water, sewage, basic infrastructure, pad ready, and the internet, the broadband, the service to make their company competitive globally across the world, literally, is something that is on their checklist of we must have. So it's critical to our long-term economy. In all honesty, and just to lighten it up a little bit, when I looked at this map for the first time, and there have been iterations of this map across time, and that's due to the great work and thoughtfulness of Byron and working with all of our partners, truly. But you look at it and you go, oh my God, I'm going to be a rocket scientist by the time I understand this. And I think Commissioner Keith said it really well, because we've listened to Byron probably, 10, 15 times maybe, because he's been kind enough to go across the county with us and start to explain to people. And I think what I want our listeners to truly hear is the person that's out on a rural road and they think to themselves, well, my neighbor got it down the street and they're like so happy, but why haven't we gotten it yet? And there are those complications that truly, once you understand the map and the process and the partners and the process, people, it's like anything else. They're thinking in their mind, oh, it's got to be so easy. They can just put something on that pole out there and I can have it. And sometimes it's just not that simple. And I hate it when someone says to me, well, it's complicated, you can't understand. Because with these kinds of tools, like a map, if you start peeling back those layers, you really do understand there's a rather easy solution. It's just not as simple to get to in a timely, quick manner as you would hope. It's coming. As Byron said, we've tried to listen to everyone who calls in, everyone we can possibly get to say we need it, we want it, we don't have it. And some of the most important things to just keep in mind, I know it's hard to be patient, but people will say, well, why'd the funding go to that sector and not to continue the work in my area? And all of these grants and matching dollars have fairly broad, thankfully, but some stipulations. And what people have to understand is they might have something that doesn't work great, but they have something. And some of these areas go to the non-served. There's nothing there to begin to, connect them. And then what happens as a result, the people that are underserved, but they have something, that connection and that groundwork of layer will help them get a higher speed and better service. So again, it's just so wonderful to understand this in the sense of, yeah, it looks complicated, and in some ways it is, but really we're going to get to everybody before it's all done.
Yeah, the people who think that it's really complicated, don't worry, because you've got people who they deal in the complicated. Byron, let's bring you back into this conversation here this morning and talk about expectations and getting down the road and actually making forward progress.
Well, so again, bids or responses to the RFP are due tomorrow. So we're gonna open those up once we get them all in and the time closes, and really start to analyze what we have as part of the RFP packet, and those that get on the county's internet, all the map, the RFP, the supporting documentation is all on the county's website that people can look at, and so there's a simple Excel spreadsheet that talks about the census tract. There's a lot of things that these grant sources ask us for. The census tract, the number of homes, the number of businesses, the number of what they call CAIs or community anchor institutions, governmental offices, schools, churches, those kinds of things. But we also, my approach is to say for each internet service provider, tell us for each of those, like from road A to road B, how long is it?
Yeah.
So actually breaking it down by road, and what we envisioned that there already is service. The county under the EMA plan a number of years ago only needed for emergency management 12 pair of fiber, to service that system, and that was built when the county built towers or leased tower sites for the first responder network. Mm-hmm. And what the county did is backhauled those signals back to EMA on fiber. So it was wireless to the tower, and then it was backhauled from tower to tower back to EMA center. And but what the county did at that time is overbuilt the network. So in some cases, depending on where it was and what the capacity was, in some cases the county overbuilt it to 96 pair, but only needed 12, or 48 pair, but only needed 12. And that was to position us to be able to do. And that's why the commissioners were able to deploy under the CARES Act, and we only had 6 months to get that going, is because we already had that network there. Mm-hmm. Elsewhere in the county, where we do not have that network, that there are existing ISPs. Verizon's out there, Comcast is out there, Windstream is out there, Salzgiver's out there in their own right, and so there's already existing networks. And a lot of the calls we got where I could see the Comcast pole. My neighbor 3 doors down has Comcast, but I can't get it, to Commissioner Gorman's point, Commissioner Hess's point. And so, so the issue is there's capacity, in the signal strength. And typically they run out, and it gets very expensive to take it to the next level. Or the customer base, there only might be 1 or 2 houses for the next 2 miles. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a return on investment. And so hopefully these dollars are to incentivize internet service providers to expand their networks. So I've explained to each of them one-on-one, we're not looking for simple vendors or contractors. We're looking for partners, okay? And a lot of them have these networks. We're asking them not to take over the world. If you're in the southern part of the county or you're in Indiana Borough, there's no sense of you trying to get to North Mahoning Township when somebody else might be closer. Uh-huh. Okay, so we're looking to be smart about the deployment of these funds and to leverage dollars. And what I mean by having partners, we're looking for some skin in the game from them as well. And sure. So if the county, for example, were able to run the mainline fiber, maybe the ISPs will make the connections from the pole line into the home. Yeah. For example. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully we'll have more leveraging and more investment beyond the $7 million with the partnership with these ISPs. Okay, so that's one strategy. The other strategy is, and I think Commissioner Keith said it, is, this is not a one and done. When EMA project went through, we needed money. So now we've had CARES Act money. Now we have all these competitive grants and the county support. But there's more dollars out there, and we've applied for a number of different funding sources. And we partnered with the Commonwealth, for example, on an application to the NTIA and the National Telecommunications Infrastructure Group, and we didn't win that particular one. So we're going to continue to apply for funds. In Pennsylvania, the legislature formed the Pennsylvania Broadband Development Authority. And so there's going to be federal pass-through monies into that organization. And my hope is, and what the commissioners have chartered the way for, is, I'm hoping that we get 10 million, 12 million in terms of project opportunities, that we deploy the $7 million, and then we go to, our legislative team, we go back to the DCD, or the Pennsylvania Development Broadband Authority, and we say, we got projects ready to go. They've been bid. They've gone through the federal process for compliance. So we're ready to go. We got projects on the shelf ready to go. So hopefully we'll be very competitive for future monies. And I know this Board of Commissioners will direct me to be very aggressive in going after those funds.
Yeah.
But in terms of hopefully in the coming weeks, the commissioners will consider these awards, and then the construction will start. And we'll be very transparent about where it is. And I know we've had a lot of good conversations on geographic dispersion, trying to get it to, and keep building out around the county, not just plunk it in one spot, but try to keep moving forward in all corners of the county. And then also, again, being very aggressive, going after more money to keep that momentum going.
So the next couple, I guess we're on the tee box right now. And we're ready to tee off for internet broadband internet here in Indiana County. We're going to watch with great interest what happens tomorrow, and then see the progress incrementally, and we'll watch all of this occur with probably fascination, and then all of a sudden one day we're expecting someone to come knocking on the door and say, "Here's your broadband." That's what we expect in today's society.
Yeah.
Here's your broadband, and they hand us something. It's not that way, but it's good to know that in today's technological age that we are getting to the point where Indiana County is going to be, as they say, wired up, or even wireless up. We're looking forward to it.
Very good.
Very, very much. Commissioner Mike Keith, Commissioner Shireen Hess, Commissioner Robin Gorman, the Office of Planning and Development, Byron Stauffer, joining us here this morning. So the bid process is really going to accelerate and move forward. And again, Byron, you said for folks that want to get a look at this map up close, it's easy to do. Unfortunately, it requires internet, and a lot of people don't have that, but they can go to the county website, correct?
Yeah, you can go to your library if you can't get it, or feel free to call the Office of Planning and Development. We can mail some out, but it's on the county's website of Indiana County, PA.gov.
Meanwhile, if people do have questions and they want some answers, or they want, they think, okay, I need to call and get on a list somewhere, what should they do?
They should call Todd Marino. No, no. What people have been doing, and again, we've encouraged. The county was very transparent, and when the county did the 3 public sector or public outreach meetings, we did get a flurry of phone calls. So they can call the Office of Planning and Development 724-465-3870, and kindly leave your name, your address. And we'll put a little diamond on the map and keep updating this map so that we can identify where those clustering opportunities are, and really and again, it should be remiss that there's been some other partners in this. The SPC's done a connectivity study, and so we're really refining so we kind of know where the unserved areas are, the underserved areas. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of studies that have been done at the regional level. The county also did a vertical asset inventory, so we know where all the towers are, we know where all the silos are, we know where all the barns are. So if we want to get on top of things to put wireless signals, we can do that. And again, the strategy may be where we run fiber where we can, But in some instances, off of that fiber, we can run what's called fixed base wireless. And that might be, and that was a strategy done under the CARES Act down in Brush Valley, to be able to get signal off a fiber line, off a hard line, but then while we're still trying to get to people at the hard line, because funding does run out, that we can try to do it wirelessly. And that's been very, very effective as well. So we're going to try to implement multiple levels of strategies and delivery types in order to try to hit as many people as we can as quickly as we can. Some instances it may be temporary service, but then people may opt to keep that, or eventually we're going to try to hardwire everybody. But again, that's very costly. So that's a management of expectations. Some may get hardwired just because it's because we keep spidering out, from the inside out. But then because some of those wireless signals can go miles.
Yeah.
And so, so we're going to try to get to everybody in one form or another, and try to meet everybody's level of expectation. And another one has been affordability, and we're keeping an eye on that as well.
Yeah.
Because it is expensive. Every month.
Not everything's free in this world.
Correct.
County Commissioners Byron Stauffer, thank you all so very much for coming and spending this time with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.